I'm here with our common sense anti-inflation team. But before I address that matter, I want to say that Conservatives stand with our friends in Quebec and in other provinces facing forest fires, and we will be with them as long as they are needed. We will also ask the government to provide full support, and we will be there to support that in the House of Commons and in any other way we're called upon to do so. Secondly, we say that it is outrageous that the prison system has moved Paul Bernardo to a medium security institution. He should be in a maximum security institution. The government should review any powers it has to reverse this ridiculous decision. Mr. Bernardo is a monster and he belongs in maximum security. Today we're here to talk about our two demands to reverse the inflationary crisis Justin Trudeau has caused. Two demands that we will fight for, including by putting forward 900 amendments to the forthcoming Liberal budget debate. We are going to stop the budget unless they meet two conditions. Condition number one, we want a plan to balance the budget in order to bring down inflation and interest rates. Now, the government said that it could balance the budget in the year 2027. That was only 6 months ago. And then they suddenly reversed themselves with $60 billion of inflationary deficits. The Minister of Finance admits deficits fuel inflation. She said so right before adding the extra $60 billion of inflation. That's $4,200 for every family in Canada. We also know that former finance ministers for the Liberal Party, like John Manley, have said that the deficit spending is like pressing on the gas in a vehicle, driving inflation forward, while the Bank of Canada slams on the brakes to stop it from moving. So here we have the Bank of Canada forced to increase interest rates in order to reduce the inflationary pressures that the government is imposing. This is going to become not just undesirable, but a crisis, because in 2026, 2027, all the mega mortgages that people took out in 2021 and 2022 will come up for renewal. And we could have people with $1 million mortgages that are hit with 3 and 4 percentage point increases in their interest payment on those mortgages. That's $30,000 or $40,000 a year, which could potentially lead to a meltdown in the mortgage market. The solution, of course, is to get the inflation and the interest rates down before that happens. Now, the government does not set interest rates. It does set the fiscal environment in which those rates are determined. And so they could help the Bank of Canada by getting rid of the deficit, bringing down inflation and interest rates. Secondly, the government said the carbon tax wouldn't go above 14 cents a litre. Now they're planning to raise it to 61 cents a litre. Canadians cannot afford to pay another 47-cent increase in taxes that will raise gas, heat, and groceries. So what Conservatives are saying is no new carbon tax increases. We're going to get rid of the carbon tax when we form government. We understand that that would not be a realistic ask of this government because of their policy. However, we think a reasonable compromise in the interim would be for them to cancel planned carbon tax increases. We will continue to fight for these two demands: a plan to balance the budget to lower interest rates and inflation, and no new carbon tax hikes. And if the government does not meet these demands, we will use all procedural tools at our disposal to block the budget from passing, including 900 amendments, lengthy speeches, and other procedural tools that are in our toolkit. Our purpose is to restore common sense to the country's finances and to end the inflationary crisis that is making Canadians incapable of feeding themselves, of heating their homes, and paying their bills. We got 9 in 10 young people who can't afford a home and believe they never will. 1 in 5 Canadians skipping breakfast, lunch, or dinner because they can't afford to eat. 1.5 million going to food banks, some asking for help with medical assistance and dying. This is already a crisis, but it will become a massive financial crisis in the next several years if we do not bring the inflation and interest rates back under control. And our effort as official opposition is to fight for common sense steps to do that. That's what we are announcing today. This is the team that will do it, my friends. This is our economic team that includes our shadow ministers of finance, Treasury Board, and my deputy leaders who are fighting this battle on behalf of cash-strapped Canadians who are working harder than ever for less and less. Our purpose is to bring home lower prices, bring home powerful paychecks, bring home as people can afford, bring home safety, bring home freedom. It's the common sense of the common people united for our common home, Canada. Thank you.
Can I ask you, what do you think about the creation of a national firefighting service as a possibility? And two, what did you make of that Chinese ship cutting off the U.S. naval ship in the Taiwan Strait the other day?
Well, it's a fair question, David. We have firefighting assets spread out across the country, and in instances like this, we want to make sure that we don't have a surplus of downed aircraft sitting around doing nothing while there's an excess need in another province. So we would be open to studying any solutions that will help the country better coordinate its water bombers and other assets so that that those assets are where they're needed, when they're needed, as quickly as possible. From my understanding, there has been actually a fair amount of cooperation, not only across the country, but from around the world. The French are kicking in, the Americans have kicked in, but are there simpler ways we could direct those assets? Possibly, and I want to thank Minister Blair for providing me with an excellent briefing on the matter late last week, and we're here to support the government in anything they can do to fight these fires. And this is another provocation by communist China. We believe the Beijing should restore calm and stability rather than provoking. We as conservatives, we want a peaceful world. Like most Canadians, we're not out looking for a fight, but we need to stand up for our values and our interests. We also need to make sure that our military is ready for anything, God forbid. Thank you.
In French, on the creation of a squad to fight fires in Canada, or the creation of a brigade of tank planes in Canada to fight forest fires. What's your opinion? I haven't decided on that yet. As I said in English, I think we do need to coordinate the use of our aircraft and other equipment in order to protect Canadians in emergencies such as this. We always need aircraft that are not being used because it belongs to one province when another province could use them. So we would like to work with the government to respond not only to the current crisis, but also to make reforms that would allow us to respond more effectively in any future crises.
Last week you had an exchange with the Prime Minister in the House of Commons where you referenced his departure from a private school he used to teach at. As you may know, there was lots of rumors about his exit, including what seems to be a completely defamatory story that has no credibility. Why did you raise that in the House of Commons? Well,
it is just a fact, and this Prime Minister has a track record of not completing what he starts and bragging about what he hasn't done. And that has spilled over into his policy positions, whether it's his promises to complete, for example, a Trans Mountain pipeline gone $27 billion over budget, still not done. Claiming he's going to have an electrification economy, bragging about all these mines that he announces but don't actually get completed. Brags about his policy and promises on climate change, but they never actually meet their targets. So with this Prime Minister, there's a lot of bragging about things he plans to do without actually getting them done.
You referenced that story, though. You referenced that particular story, which is...
No, I mentioned the fact that he did depart.
You said that he departed.
Yes.
And you couldn't remember why. So
that's right.
What did you mean by that?
Exactly what I said.
What did you mean by that?
About him, the reason why he left the school?
You have to ask him why he left the school.
On opioids. On opioids, Mom Stop the Harm was here all last week. They sent you a request for a meeting. Your office acknowledged the request. You did not meet with them. Yeah. Why not?
I was actually meeting with a recovery center in Winnipeg, and the recovery approach is the one that we favor as conservatives. We believe, if I could, we have heard all viewpoints, and we believe that all viewpoints matter. Our approach is to invest in recovery. We believe the evidence shows that providing Canadians with opioids when they're already addicted to drugs makes the problem worse. The opioids the government is funding include hydromorphone. Hydromorphone is an opioid that is stronger than heroin. It is highly addictive, and when it is put into the marketplace, it is often resold by addicts who find that it no longer gets them high. And then when it is resold, it goes to children who get addicted to it, And after a while, it no longer gets them high either. So they then take the drugs and sell them to other kids, and so on and so forth. That is why our approach is to take the resources and put them into recovery, detox, and treatment. And in Winnipeg over the weekend, I had a chance to meet with an incredible recovery center where the Oak Center, where they bring addicts who are suffering from addiction in, give them residential care. Their plan is to build on-site accommodations for those addicts when they graduate from the program so they can stay nearby and be launched into a drug-free life. That is our common sense approach. We think it's the right way, and we'll keep working towards it.
You could simply vote against the budget rather than all these delay tactics. Why take this measure, especially when we have so little House time left before the summer recess?
We think it's a crisis. We think that what is going to happen if we do not get inflation and interest rates under control now, that in 2025, 2026, 2027, when this massive bubble of mortgages comes up for renewal, they're going to be hit with higher interest rates, and we're going to have massive bankruptcies. The taxpayer will be on the hook through CMHC, and it could cause massive financial and economic instability. The time to avoid that is running out, and that's why today the government needs to introduce a plan and a timeline to balance the budget to lower interest rates and inflation. And they need to cancel the carbon tax increases.
Last question.
C-35, I know the Conservatives sent it to committee. We're going to look to see what's going on with the child care program, but do Conservatives support that? Will you support it in the
I'll be
House?
studying the final wording of the legislation when it comes out of committee. We want to make sure that it is as flexible as possible to maximize the number of child care spaces and child care options that actually get delivered. And we're going to look at the final wording of the legislation accordingly. Yeah.
Navigator? David Johnson has hired Navigator. What do you think about that?
All right, this will have to be the last question, but I think it's another example of how this process is flawed and makes no sense. We shouldn't have to hire a rapporteur who is a cottage neighbor, a family friend, ski buddy, and member of the Trudeau Foundation, and then have him try to reverse the reputational damage that obvious conflict has caused by paying expensive consultants to do damage control. So we think we can skip all this, save all this money by going straight to a public inquiry, and that's what Conservatives ask for. It's what I will deliver when I'm Prime Minister. Thank you very much.